Waiting for the cue here. Absolutely. All ready? Okay. If we're ready, we will call this meeting to order. And we have one agenda item for this special meeting tonight, and it is the introduction of the city manager's proposed fiscal year. I always thought it was our budget, but I think it is our budget. But city manager's proposed fiscal year 2025-26 operating and capital budgets. And we'll start with the city manager.
Roll call?
Oh, did I skip roll call? Sorry about that.
That's okay. Councilmember San Antonio?
Present.
Councilmember Schaefer?
Here.
Councilmember O'Hara?
Present.
Deputy Mayor Lyons?
Here.
And Mayor Gaylor?
Here.
Record will show that all members of the city council are present.
Okay, now we're on to agenda item 1. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. So today we are doing the introduction of the fiscal year 25-26 budget. And first, I do want to thank council for all of their due diligence on the budget workshops that we had. I want to thank all of our staff, including the executive team and their budget coordinators for putting this together. And of course, thanking Kelly Sanderson and Tom Gallup, our finance manager and director of finance, for all their hard work on this budget. So just a quick overview, we have a balanced budget. It means that our revenues and expenditures, that they match, and usually revenues outweigh expenditures. Our fund reserves are met at the policy levels. We have 2% budget stabilization reserve, and we have a 20% contingency reserve. We are currently meeting all of our debt, pension, and contractual obligations. We are funding many great capital projects that the City Council has given direction on, not just from general fund, but other funds as well. And what that leaves us with is $500,000 in general fund unassigned ending fund balance for the year. So with that, again, I want to thank council and I want to thank all of the staff for putting together this budget so that we can provide great services and great projects to our residents here in the city of Encinitas. So I'd like to turn it over now to the Director of Finance, Tom Gallup.
Thank you, City Manager Campbell. As you can see, we're nearing the end of the city's budget development cycle. This process is a way for the City Council to authorize spending through appropriations before the beginning of the new fiscal year on July 1st. This afternoon's item introduces the proposed fiscal year 25-26 operating and capital budgets for review, public input, and City Council direction. On June 18th, we will return with budget resolutions needed for final adoption. During the strategic plan workshops on February 24th and 25th of this year, the City Council defined the vision, mission, and focus areas for the 2025-2026 annual work plan. At strategic plan objectives follow-up meetings on March 24th and April 9th, 2025, the City Council defined objectives for each goal. Budget workshops offering opportunities for the public to provide input on budget priorities were held at 3 special City Council meetings on March 26th, April 23rd, and May 7th. During the workshops, staff presented the financial forecast for the general fund, and City Council provided direction on the city's capital improvement program. Over the course of these 3 workshops spanning 6 weeks, some timing differences surfaced, which impacted the balance available for appropriation in the next fiscal year. For example, Workshop 2 assumed temporary fire station number 1's construction would take place next year. However, staff was able to bring Station 1 forward for City Council consideration on May 14th. As a result, $285,000 was appropriated in the current year, making that amount unavailable and not needed next year. Similarly, prior to Workshop 2, staff determined $1 million was needed for emergency repairs for the D Street beach access, and that needed to be requested in the current fiscal year instead of next year. The proposed budget incorporates direction provided at Budget Workshop 3 on May 7th regarding programming $7.25 million of general fund budgetary fund balance in the operating and capital budgets. I will now turn the presentation over to Budget Manager Kelly Sanderson.
Thank you. I'm going to go into the operating budget and some of the schedules that you see in the packet. This slide summarizes the proposed budget while providing an overview of some of the things that we will be bringing back in the resolutions for adoption. The fund balance analysis is attachment 1. This is at the end of the packet. It projects beginning fund balance and shows budgeted revenues, operating expenditures, and transfers to all city funds. Staff uses this schedule to ensure policy-directed reserves can be met, to identify timing issues related to grant reimbursements, determine interfund transfers, as well as capacity to fund capital projects. Essentially, the general fund budget is shown on the first row, and the total city budget is on the last row. This schedule typically is included in the budget adoption resolution. It's important to note that balances shown here are based on budgeted numbers. For forecasting purposes, finance must assume that actuals will equal budget. If current year actuals were to come in lower than budgeted, these budget savings would result in higher than projected fund balance at July 1st. This actual carryover amount would be presented along with the audited financials in January. For all city funds, the proposed operating budget reflects a total city budget of $146.6 million in revenue that funds $139.9 million in expenses. Across all funds, estimated revenues increase $4.9 million, or 3.4% over the current fiscal year 25 revised budget. This is primarily due to a $5 million increase in general fund related to high property values that we see in property tax revenue. Proposed operating expenses increase $3.5 million overall funds, or 2.6%. This proposed budget maintains current levels of service while meeting debt, pension, and contractual obligations. And the increase is primarily due to $1.9 million for new or expanded programs directed during the public budget workshops. Some of these additions and enhancements include for law enforcement, $916,000 for adding 2 traffic deputies. $360,000 would be recurring, and there's a for each, and then there's a $196,000 one-time startup that would be added to the contract with the San Diego County Sheriff. In fire and marine safety, we've added $179,000 for a deputy fire marshal, which would increase. It's a new FTE. One FTE. There's also a $143,000 increase for fleet for 1 new vehicle for the fire chief, and this is a general fund transfer to the fleet replacement fund. On homeless action plan implementation in the development services budget, there is an increase of $224,000 for case management and outreach contract. That would be a share between the general fund for $144,000 and $80,000 of state opioid settlement would be eligible to offset some of those costs. There's a reduction of $208,000 for the homeless solutions coordinator. This was a new position approved at mid-year in 2024. So this would be eliminating that FTE, which remains unfilled. So between that and the deputy fire marshal, that's a net 0 FTE for the general fund. Also, the budget also includes $186,000 for the Buena Creek Navigation Center. the optional contract extension that would take place in January after the existing state permanent local housing assistance funding expires. For IT, there is an increase in the general fund of $80,000 for permit parking zone software implementation that would be used by the engineering department or replace some services that staff was currently doing. For the utilities, these are not general fund. They're funded by ratepayers and restricted enterprise funds. So in wastewater administration, there's a $220,000 to add 1 FTE for a new senior management analyst position. This would be a cost share, a 50-50 cost share with SDWD, and there's no impact to the general fund. One-time additions to the general fund include $50,000 for a drainage consultant professional services in the engineering CIP division, $50,000 vegetation management maintenance contract increase in public works street maintenance, $20,000 citywide evacuation guide and signage, and $7,500 for printed education material for disaster preparedness, and a one-time $50,000 beach sand consultant professional services in contracts and services in the restricted coastal zone fund. As the city's largest and most discretionary fund, budget discussions typically focus on the general fund. Attachment 2 is on page 10 of the packet. This summarizes general fund activity in more detail. It also provides context for the proposed budget changes by showing last year's actuals, the current year original and mid-year revised budget, along with next year's proposed amounts. Estimated general fund revenues total $113.3 million. This is an increase of $5 million or 4.7% over the current budget. The city forecasts revenue growth next year mostly due to high property values, where recent transfers of ownership continue to be the largest driver of property tax growth between tax years. As you can see from the pie chart, the large blue pie, nearly 86% of general fund revenue is generated from taxes, with property tax and sales tax being the major sources. Charges for services, transient occupancy tax, and franchise fees make up the remainder of the top 5 categories. Excise tax for cannabis retail sales was added as a new revenue source in fiscal year 24, and all 4 sites became operational in fiscal year 25. The call-out box in the lower left, the point of including that is to show, if we zoom into the overall blue tax piece of the pie, that green Pac-Man down there is property tax. So that's the city's largest revenue source, representing 73% of taxes, which makes, and then ultimately property tax becomes 63% of the total general fund revenue. And to learn more about where general fund money comes from, financial summaries, revenues, which is attachment 3 and starts on page 15 of the packet. We include it to provide answers to commonly asked questions and additional context. It also includes a discussion of the revenue sources, including a description, historical data, relevant economic conditions, and assumptions behind the estimates that we're presenting. This is also where you'll find infographics like a breakdown of each property tax dollar, where 24 cents goes to the general fund, and other charts like property and sales tax trends. On the expenditure side, similar information about the categories where monies are spent is provided in financial summaries, expenditures, which is attachment 4 that starts on page 26 of the packet. The fiscal year 26 budget for the general fund includes operating expenditures of $106.2 million. This is an increase of $4.9 million or 4.9% over the current budget. As the city's primary operating fund, these expenditures account for basic services such as public safety, public works, development services, code enforcement, engineering, park and street maintenance, along with the administrative services required to support them. The city's position count totaled 249.4 FTE on July 1st, 2024, adding one fire prevention deputy fire marshal and one utilities senior management analyst, along with eliminating one unfilled homeless solutions coordinator, would result in an increase of one FTE, bringing the fiscal year 26 total to 250.4 FTE. And this excludes the San Dieguito Water District personnel. In addition to the operating expenditures, transfers to internal service funds provide funding for scheduled equipment and vehicle replacements. The operating budget includes $0.8 million for replacements scheduled for next fiscal year, which are detailed in attachment 4 on page 30. This schedule typically is included with the budget adoption resolution, and any changes to the schedule of the vehicle and equipment that's listed here would come back before council again if Public Works needs to make any changes to this list. Finally, the fiscal year 26 debt service budget proposes paying $500,000 from the Park Acquisitions Fees Fund, number 232, instead of the general fund. The proposed modification would reduce general fund transfers to the Encinitas Public Financing Authority Fund by $517,400 toward the 2013 lease revenue refunding bonds that were issued for Encinitas Community Park. Reducing general fund debt service increases capacity for new recurring operating items. And assuming that park acquisitions fees continue to be available in future budget cycles, transfers for debt service on the 2013 park bonds would continue through the final payment due in 2033. If not available, the general fund would resume transfers out for debt service. And next, Finance Director Gallup will provide an overview of the proposed capital budget.
The capital budget funds improvements on city infrastructure, including roads, sidewalks, drainage systems, wastewater collection, trails, and parks. While most capital projects are managed by the engineering department, the CIP plan also includes facilities, parks, and beach projects, and, as I mentioned, wastewater collection, and multi-year studies, such as work projects, managed by other departments. In all, the total appropriation from all funds for the fiscal year 26 capital budget is $16.2 million. In Budget Workshop 3, City Council provided direction on programming $5.2 million from the general fund and $774,000 from restricted funds towards multi-year capital and work projects that included $50,000 for ADA curb ramp project, $800,000 for beach stair access refurbishment for Swami's Beach, $100,000 for Beach Street open space public recreation trail, $275,000 for bridge inspections, $85,000 for Clark Avenue improvements, $500,000 for corrugated metal pipe lining, $100,000 for economic development strategic planning, $110,000 for Encinitas Habitat Stewardship Program, $200,000 for general mobility, $750,000 for park development at L7, $350,000 for the Lucadia Boulevard I-5 Bridge Rail Repair Project, $232,000 for park improvement projects, $600,000 for pavement rehabilitation and overlay, $250,000 for resource management element update, $500,000 for South Vulcan Avenue storm drain main line from Union Street to Moonlight Beach for the design, $200,000 for safe routes to school, $250,000 for annual storm drain repair, $400,000 for temporary fire station 6, the design and permitting portion of that project, and lastly, $175,000 for the Vulcan DG Ped Path. Page 7 of the agenda packet lists the specific projects along with work plan objective numbers and funding sources for the capital program. Across all funds, $16.2 million is proposed for next fiscal year. As mentioned, this includes $5.2 million from the general fund and a total of $11.1 million from all other funds, such as the Encinitas Sanitary Division and Cardiff Sanitary Division. Attachment 6A on page 31 presents the 5-year plan by type, while 6B on page 33 subtotals by funding source. The capital budget appropriates funds for fiscal year 25-26 only. Projects shown in future years are programmed into a 5-year CIP financing plan and are not funded until each subsequent budget adoption. The proposed plan through fiscal year 29-30 contains $65.1 million in capital improvement and work projects over the next 5 years, with $9.4 million of this contributed by the general fund. Our next steps are to receive direction during this meeting and adopt the budget on June 18th. And with that, staff is available to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, do we have any questions, preliminary questions from council? If not, do we have public speakers?
We do have two.
Two.
Mark Wisniewski, followed by Ellen Burr.
Good evening, Mayor Ehlers, Deputy Mayor Lyons, and members of the City Council. I really hadn't anticipated speaking tonight, but after Monday, as a Vietnam War Navy vet, I attended a ceremony at the American Legion Post for Veterans Day. It's an annual gathering of recollection and remembrance. And of the speakers, Mayor Ehlers was one, and City Council Member Schaefer was another. After the preliminary remarks, we were introduced to two really remarkable local heroes. One is a 101-year-old World War II Air Force vet who flew in bombers as a machine gunner. He successfully completed 22 missions over Germany while countering heavy anti-aircraft fire. The second is, until recently, an unsung hero, Captain Royce Williams, who during the Korean War, as a Navy aviator, was part of a 4-man flight off the aircraft carrier Rinsky, doing his second patrol of the day along North Vietnam, when they encountered 7 Soviet MiGs, not Korean, Soviet. The other 3 planes developed problems and had to return to the ship, leaving Mr. Williams to single-handedly face the 7 MiGs. Through skill, he was able to shoot down 4 of them, damaged the other 2, and as he ran out of ammunition, eluded the other plane and safely made it back to land on the ship uninjured, except his plane had 263 holes in it. You can read more about him in Wikipedia. So many people in this community probably don't know that we have a dedicated memorial. It's located in Cottonwood Creek Park at the intersection of Encinitas Boulevard and Vulcan Avenue. The reason that most people don't know is because some of the interpretive signage has been removed over the years. If you take the time to visit it, you'll see that the very beautiful stone walls are incomplete on either end with crumbled rocks exposed, representing the lives that were torn apart of those people who did not return, but also those that returned damaged or injured. Might I have another minute?
Just, yeah, we have a light group, so just 1 minute, no more.
Yes. I would like to have the flags restored properly there because the American flag is not on the top flagpole. The missing action flag is missing in action. And that funds be provided to restore the signage that explains the significance of the installation, and Parks and Rec be given sufficient funds to explore how the damaged pump system can be used to restore the feature, and provide a cost estimate for either not completion this year, but for next budget cycle. Thank you very much for your kindness.
Okay. And we can refer this to staff.
Good evening, Council. L7 Park Development. Objective 41A, initiate the permitting process to the development of a community park at the L7 city-owned property on Quill Gardens Drive. That description is not exactly what I recall reading in what was presented to council by two of the newer members. And there was supposed to be a report back from staff regarding what they had requested be done. And I don't want to have to come back here in 10 or 15 years and channel Sheila Cameron to say exactly what that $750 million was actually for. I do not understand how you can spend $750 million in 1 year for what they say.
$1,000, I hope. $750,000.
Whatever. Tomato. $750,000. Just checking to make sure you were awake.
Yeah. We're listening. When you go over $500 million, we listen.
Okay, all right. At any rate, that's a lot of money to spend in 1 year. And I'm furthermore really surprised because we spent a considerable amount of time going over the Parks and Recs Commission work plan just a week or so ago, and there is nothing in the work plan, any changes or modifications that mentions this. So I really don't, if this is really what that is for, then people will want to see something going on and committees happening. If this is instead to undo what was done before and make sure that all of our parks are indeed parks that cannot be touched, and we've got a lot of lawyers and consultants involved, then fine, but say it, you know. Do not make people expect that there's going to be a park going up there if there's not going to be a park going up there anytime soon. Next thing, sorry, Tom. We have a solid waste fund. 5% supposedly goes exactly to the solid waste fund. Another 5% goes to, I'm not sure whether it's via the franchise taxes or it goes straight into the general fund. Donna would probably consider it a slush fund, but it would be nice if that amount was pointed out here in the document as to how much money is going into that fund, and consequently, the same amount should be going somehow, slowly, whatever, into the general fund, because that could be a lot of money, and it would be nice to know how exactly it's being spent, at least in the solid waste fund, and what the amount is going in, because that's kind of really a tax. And that's all I have time for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Was that it?
We have one more speaker, Natalie Satoon.
Hi, Natalie Satoon. I just have one request for the downtown light post, could we possibly get some money in the budget for flags for the downtown flag post? When it comes time for the 4th of July, there is nothing patriotic about our town at all. And if we didn't have the Legion, thankfully you mentioned this, if we didn't have the Legion, we would have nothing for the city of Encinitas, and every other city has some kind of nod to Independence Day. So if we could just get something, I know DEMA is supposed to take care of it, but they're not. We'll turn blue before they'll fork over any money for it. So I'm hoping our city can find something. Thank you.
That's it?
Speakers?
So I think first we got to talk about the Ellen's question about the 750,000 didn't have to do with the designation of the land. That is moving forward on the design of the park, and that supports the objective in our goal list of what was it 4.1A. Initiate the permitting process for the development of a community park at L7 city-owned property on Quail Gardens Drive. So, and I'm sensing my city manager wants to speak.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. You are absolutely right. And that money is actually from mitigation fees that can only be used for park development. And we currently have 1.7 million in the account currently.
Yeah, and the idea is to get the design going so that we can move forward on funding a park and actually getting a park built. So it's step one out of the out of that. And then the solid waste fund, that is an enterprise fund, and there is no mixing of solid waste fund, or I'll let, okay, explain enterprise accounting and enterprise funding, that general fund is city and solid waste is solid waste.
Yes, solid waste. It's Fund 214, and it's characterized as a grant fund. The split that was referred to was established when the city entered into an agreement with EDCO for organics recycling, and so that supports the program in that fund. Those are restricted from, for that particular use in Fund 214, but then the city does receive franchise fee revenue from EDCO for their operations here in the city.
And that franchise fees goes into general fund?
Yes, that supports the general fund.
Okay, cool. So, any questions, comments? Sorry, I'm on the wrong page. There we go. Deputy Mayor Lyons.
I just would like to respond a little bit and then also offer my thoughts about the budget and the budget process so far. So what I'd like to tell some of the speakers who just spoke is that I think you have some great ideas about the interpretive plaques and also the idea about an interpretive plaque was brought up at our last budget meeting as well, Mark, by Brad. And at that time, we didn't add it to the official budget, but I think that there is real value in moving forward with it. Because we're quite a ways along in our budget process, unless someone else sees an opportunity to add about $25,000 per plaque at this point, I'm not seeing it today, but I would like to offer to work with you and others. And this would go also to Natalie and your interest for the flags. I think that's also a real value. So if we can't seem to find a place to put it in this budget, because we are kind of along in our process of defining what are the big items to fund at this point, then I don't want you to think you've gone unheard. I think this is a perfect opportunity for a nonprofit to partner with our Parks Department or our Streets, Public Works Department in the case, or maybe even with DEMA, to see if we can move forward with some of these great ideas and get some additional money brought in to help us with that. So I wanted to give you my thoughts there. I do want to say that as in all the years that I've served here on City Council, I'm very glad to see that we are healthy as a city, financially and fiscally. We've always made good, strong decisions, and it's all been transparent and in the public. And of course, we're moving forward with a balanced budget. So I wanted to call that out. We have more revenue now than we have in past years. But as in past years, though, we still don't have enough to do all the projects we want, both whether it's a culture and arts or whether it's fundamental infrastructure. We still don't have enough. And so there's always a lot of challenge with fine-tuning what it looks like we can do right now. So that's what we're doing today, is moving one step forward with fine-tuning what we can do right now. I am optimistic by mid-year we will have more information. We'll know more about whether we're going to get money from FEMA and some of the other things we've talked about that could significantly influence the money we have available. So I know that we'll be smart and we'll bring forward some of these good ideas, and we'll probably be made aware of some other things that might need funding at that time. So even though this seems like it's the one annual bite at the apple, we do have a mid-year opportunity, and I anticipate we'll have some money to talk about at that time. What I want to point out is a few things that I'm really happy about as far as this budget. I really like some of the good solutions we've put together as staff and as city leaders associated with the Homeless Action Plan. I think we have a good solution, and we've maximized the efficiency of the budget. We're going to afford case management and outreach, so we'll get folks, people on the streets and helping with the outreach on a regular basis. We'll fill our homeless solutions manager position, which is now vacant, and we'll continue funding Buena Creek Navigation Center, which I think these things that we've done here as a city have shown good results in the past, and I look forward to them maturing and even showing better results in the future. We're putting funding towards the fire stations number 6 and number 1, and we're putting the money that's needed right now towards those. So I think that demonstrates a commitment to both of those, and also to our fire and police and sheriff protection overall, with a new fire marshal, new vehicles, and 2 new deputies, and the startup costs associated with that. I know that these are really top priorities for the community, and I'm glad to see that we can really focus together on achieving those. I want to call out a few things that constituents have supported in the past and that continue to move forward with funding: habitat stewardship, vegetation management, which both of those items will help with the brush management and the fire fuel load reduction that we hope to achieve across our open space. Plus, we're affording new open space, and also we're making significant progress with infrastructure across the city. What I don't see yet in this budget that I hoped would be included, and I hope that we will continue to look for ways to provide funding for these, are the first associated with goal number 5, which is preserving our community character. And I'm happy to see we have one funded item behind that, which is the cultural district. But I hope that we can continue to consider how important preserving our community character is to us, and if it is really important, then putting some money behind being clear about what that community character is. What I put forward was historic preservation in historic districts, which didn't receive funding this time or hasn't yet. But I still think it's a real important way to move forward with identifying what's valuable about our community character. And for the cost, it's a good investment. And the other, there is one infrastructure project I do want to call out, and that's the Birmingham Drive Complete Streets project. We have constituents who come before us on a regular basis reminding us that there's a lot of needs along Birmingham Drive: undergrounding utilities, creating a safer pedestrian environment, and improving the safety for all users of the corridor. So I do want to continue to keep that up front and present in everyone's minds as a project that has been designed and has been supported, has gone through all the public comment, and continues to be supported. It is a very expensive project, like many of our infrastructure projects. So we will continue to look for funding, for outside sources of funding for the Birmingham Drive project, and we'll continue to push forward to find the right solution to make sure that that project is ultimately realized. In the interim, it will receive an overlay, and I think the community will be happy for that first step. That was all I wanted to say.
Councilmember O'Hara.
Sure. I wanted to kind of follow up on a couple of things I was really glad to hear. Deputy Mayor mentioned them. Matt, I really appreciate you showing up today. I got an email from you over the weekend, and I've read through it thoroughly, but I didn't have the full explanation. And as you'll see in the next meeting, I've been pretty busy diving into our numbers in our city and things we need to do. So I appreciate you coming here, and I want to follow up with you more on those plaques. And I do think that is something, your coming here helps keep that on the front burner for all of us as we move towards like middle of the year when money starts to come available and we start to shore up funds and review what's available at that point. L7 is under design, and we actually are working pretty rapidly with staff and with the residents to bring this to the residents and then the design to get some really exciting things started and have an anchor point for the community to develop this park. I believe the funding is there, and I think you'll see progress the next as quickly as government can move, I'll say. So I think I can say that with confidence. So I want to follow up on that because those comments were on there. Those are things we're pretty dedicated to at the city. So I'm really glad that we were able to focus on this budget on rather than what we want to have, what we need to have in the city. And I think we were able to show that we're able to balance this budget, and staff is working hard to do this. I would love to see us do a better job of enforcing our fines and getting more of them back. And I think that's something we've been talking to staff about doing and needs to happen. I'd like to see our transient occupancy taxes go up or increase those, with ways to increase our revenue rather than ways to tax people. I see those as two really good things we can do in the future. I believe as its council and as city staff, we're looking to go in that direction. And I'm so sorry, it's child pickup time. I'd like to really remind our staff that this is it's not our money, it's not our staff's money, it's the taxpayers' money. And I want to, in the upcoming year, I know work costs are going up. And so I don't expect our consultant fees to necessarily go down very much, but I would love to see us really focus a way to not spend any more money on consultants than we need to going forward. I can't emphasize that enough. We have an expert staff, and I want to see you guys be experts. And I want to see if we can let that percentage-wise fall down on our donut chart because we keep it flat or even bring it down while we increase our collection of fines, transient occupancy tax, and the other income that we have coming into the city. We're healthy. I think we campaigned on that, and I think this proves that we're going in the right direction. Lastly, I want to talk about Birmingham. I've looked at Birmingham. I believe this computer will let me get the donut chart up, but I believe it's a $30 million project. Is that correct?
You have a donut chart?
It's a $30 million project. Is that correct?
I can find it.
I know, but it still won't. It just, anyways. I believe it's a $30 million project. If I'm
Yep, 30.1.
$30.1 million. I'm going to say to staff, I'm really excited about the overlay. I think that's a great point. That's going to be a really healthy address. That's not a project we're going to get done. We're not going to have $30 million lying around to do this. So this is just upfront, straightforward. Unless we're going to cut some part of our complete budget away, that's the $30 million. What is that? Almost a third of our budget. So I think we need to, if we really want to commit ourselves to doing it, And I'm great with doing this because I think this is an important street. It's a throughway in Cardiff. It's the main road. We're going to have to break that down into components that we can digest and do over time. But right now, if we're looking at it as a $30 million project, it's why waste the time talking about it? That's how frank it is when you break it down to what it would cost. So I'd love to see us move forward on some improvements to that road, but we're gonna have to figure out how to do it piece by piece because $30 million, not happening anytime soon. And that's gonna be, doesn't matter if we had a sales tax, doesn't matter if we had other taxes. My goal up here is to keep our taxes, cost of living down by doing that. So if that's something we wanna do, we need to look at ways to bring that price tag down significantly and then put it into pieces so that we can digest it like an elephant and take it one bite at a time. Other than that, I want to thank staff for their hard work on this. I think the numbers on this kind of tell all the hard work that everybody up here across the board put in and everybody sitting in the audience. So thank you for helping us get to this number. I'm really pleased that it balances out and I'm looking forward to sending this through.
I'll hop in here now. And I too appreciate the work. And this is our third budget meeting, and I think it shows that we're kind of narrowed down. But I'm going to step back one and talk a little bit about revenue and plus $5 million general fund revenue this year. That's great. It shows you we are healthy, and that is, of course, without the addition of a sales tax. We also have the potential, likely potential, in fact, to get reimbursed $2.6 million from FEMA for the Lake Street, storm drain failure. Beyond that, we have a lot of projects in process right now, and each one of those projects, as they go through permitting and occupancy, they contribute money to open land space acquisition funds, park development funds, park acquisition funds, recreational development funds, traffic mitigation funds, flood control funds, and fire funds. Just I think it's five different projects: Moonlight Apartments, Fox Point Farms, Sunshine Gardens, Quail Meadows, and Encinitas Apartments, Goodson, in other words. When they're done, it's $14.7 million additional dollars spread out in those various funds. $14.7 million, probably coming in over the next 3, 4, 5 years at the most, as they are occupied. We don't have it now. Park acquisition, 5.4 of that 14 million. Park development, 3.4. So that's on top of the roughly, 3-something million we already have in park development funds today. So that's what's going to pay for making L7 a real park on the ground, is that we have other funds coming in that can only be used, in the case of the park acquisition, park development fund, they can only be used for those purposes. Out of those same 5 projects, there's $4 million in traffic mitigation funds that will be coming in that are not currently in this budget, right? We don't account for this money because it's not there yet. The project has to go forward. Not only does it have to go forward, it actually has to be occupied in order to get that money. But this is additional money we'll have. And I completely agree and support the better enforcement of our short-term vacation rental so we get our TOT. It's fair to the people that do go through the permitting, and it's unfair for the unpermitted to be getting a free ride, so to speak. I know the numbers presented by Vivian Vale were in the $7 million range, but I expect the real yield out of that, several $1 million. It could be $1, $2, $3 million that we could yield in additional TOT, and we would be making it fair for everybody, including the hotel operators. And so I've been talking, what is it? Everett Dirksen always used to say, Senator Dirksen, $1 million here, $1 million there. Pretty soon you're talking real money. We're talking real money here, folks. And then that leaves out, or didn't account for, we have opportunities for grant applications too. And so there could be millions more available for grant applications. In particular, the reason we're going forward with the L7 design and with the design of the Vulcan ped path is so that it will be, get it to a shovel-ready point where we can go for that the additional funding, and some of the projects out there are ideal for the current funding environment of mobility, of PedPath, of safety. And then the other one we've talked about, and we'll probably talk in item 12A, is the SAFER grant program for firefighting and public safety. We can apply for grants there. So we are in a very good position. You know, you always have more projects than you have money. But I stand by my position when I ran that I was opposed to a regressive sales tax increase, and I think tonight is proof in that we didn't really need it to achieve a balanced budget, to achieve fundamental basic infrastructure and programs that cities need to deliver. So when it comes down to, and I'll talk about plaques and flags, I think those numbers are literally small enough compared to the millions I'm talking about. There may be money that we will look to staff to look at the existing fund balances. There may be enough to, we should fix park maintenance, fix the plaques, and there probably would even be enough, I would think, for flags. So I'd be interested in that, and so I'll leave that to staff to come back and inform the council. And with that, I'll recognize Councilmember Schaefer.
Thank you, Mayor Ellers. Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off of what was already been set up here is, I'm looking at probably 1.825 with the Swami stairs, with the bridge inspection, there's a couple other things on here that popped up, but it basically ends up being quite a few items that have come up last minute with not being ahead of the preventative maintenance model. And there's, model after model that if you're not ahead of your preventative maintenance, you're looking at double, triple, quadruple costs a lot of times, especially in the sewer and a lot of the public works side of the house. So I would say I'm very proud of kind of what we ran on, but also the fact that we're putting our money where our mouth is, almost literally in this case. We're putting it into safety, we're putting it into infrastructure, and then in years to come, we'll have the infrastructure and the safety to start getting some of the nice to haves that Councilmember O'Hara speaks to. Is we'll get there, and by the time we get there, we'll have a very solid place to go, and the city has nowhere else to go but up. So really, really proud of where we come from here.
Good, and I think the city manager would like to make some closing comments.
Yes, thank you. One thing I did want to remind council is we already have the fee mitigation study underway, and this is to look at our mitigation fees, which is what the mayor talked about, the different traffic mitigation, park development, park acquisition. We actually have a study underway to see if we are getting our share, if we need more, so that's great. Also, in the next fiscal year, we will look at the rest of our fees. Some of our fees we're pretty low on. It's not 100% cost recovery, so we're going to look in 25-26 to look at all of our fees to see if there's additional revenue that we can bring into the city. And of course, it would only affect users of that specific fee, so it wouldn't be burdened by all of the residents. And we will bring some CPI increases this year to some of the engineering development services fees as well as the park fees, but we are going to undertake a study to look at that to see where we rank and where we might be able to up some fees. So I did want to remind council we'll be doing that.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember San Antonio.
I just want to say that I am definitely, like any government, it's great to start off with a balanced budget. I mean, that's great for us. It's great for the city. It's great for what we have planned ahead. And I definitely do believe in this, in the plaques and the flags. I mean, I fly a big American flag off of my Sprinter van when these days come. It's important to me. I'm sure it's important to a lot of us here, veterans or not. So I'll definitely keep that on my radar, and I'll try to get something along with the flags over at the memorial as well.
Okay, and with that, I don't have anybody else. When do we bring this back? So this is the first introduction, and we'll adopt it before our fiscal year begins in
Yes.
June on?
June 18th.
June 18th. 6 o'clock or 4 o'clock?
That is a 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Yeah,
Okay.
item.
Great. And lacking nothing else, so we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.